Welcome back to Auxano, where we discuss our guests' causes of growth and their causes of change. Today, I'm with somebody who has helped foster my growth from when I was growing up, especially here in the Virginia area, as a young military member. A lot of her guidance and a lot of her passions helped inspire some of my passions and currently how I started investing in real estate. But without further ado, I'll let her introduce herself. Who are you and what do you do?
I am Sabrina Hack, and I am the broker-owner of Peninsula Realty.
It is so good to have you on, mostly just because, we talk all the time and, we've hit each other because we train at the same Muay Thai gym.
Yes. It lovingly hits, though.
Lovingly hits.
Yes.
Lovingly hits. And each time we talk, I feel like I get richer in knowledge, not just because of real estate, but just because you're an awesome mom, too. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, actually, that's the one thing I want to ask a little later, but how is Keith doing?
Keith is doing great.
Okay.
He's really, he's doing some fun stuff himself. That could be maybe something else you might want to address, but he's got some cool stuff in the works.
I'd actually love to. So we're just going to move right along into the Let's Get Deep game. So it consists of 3 levels, icebreaker, deep, and deeper. I'm going to read you, or you're going to read to the audience the first card, which would be icebreaker.
Oh, okay.
And then I've never seen the cards, so it's...
Thanks, Bo. Oh, this is a fun one. If you could have any erotic animal as a pet, which one would you want?
You mean exotic?
Exotic. It would be a tiger.
A tiger.
I've always wanted a tiger.
Okay.
Yes.
What's up with the people and tigers?
For me, it's actually the behavioral
Okay.
aspect of it. Something people don't know about me is I actually moved to Colorado when I was younger, and I was studying animal behavior.
Okay.
And I wanted to be an animal behavior specialist.
Okay.
And it started with dogs, and then when I went out to Colorado, I wanted to do tigers. And I went to Bell Ray Institute for veterinary tech work, and the librarian there had a connection with Siegfried and Roy, and just some other stuff happened, and I actually unfortunately did not finish it. Come to find out the school I was going to go to, none of my credits transferred, so
Got it.
on to different journeys I went.
On to owning a real estate company.
Yeah.
We are going to move to level 2.
Okay.
Deep.
Do you feel that you work hard, too hard, work hard enough, or have a good balance? So it would be dependent on who you spoke to.
Okay.
Me personally, I never feel like I give enough. I've got to keep going harder. If you talk to Keith, it's way too much. If you talk to my business coach, I definitely do not have balance. So just depends who you talk to.
That is one thing I have definitely always wanted to ask you before we move on to deeper is how do you do it? How do you balance being a mom? How do you balance trying to compete in Muay Thai and then being a wife? And then on top of that being a company owner.
Yeah, I get that a lot, actually. It's about, I don't feel like I'm balanced. I feel like I'm a chicken with their head cut off, going in 30 different directions. I would have to say that the one main thing that lets me do what I do is having the support of my husband. When it comes to the Muay Thai, when I'm in that zone, he is supportive. So whatever that takes. And that's taking away from family time. My kids are at the teenage years where they're kind of figuring them out. So
Right.
Mom around isn't like a thing. Which, we just make the best time when they do want to be around. But as far as the business goes, as an entrepreneur, as you've learned, it's 24/7. I don't get to clock out at 5 o'clock. So it's how do you balance your passions? How do you balance your work life? There's times I'm working at 11, 12 o'clock at night because something else I do enjoy that I need a break, training 6 o'clock at night, so it's just maneuvering your time. We all get 24 hours and it's how do we use them,
Yeah.
I don't really have as much as a social life. My social life comes from the gym and my clients, but it's not like going out drinking and other things. I sacrifice those things. So.
Yeah. That's actually, I was on a podcast with Team Prevail. They're a clothing brand here in the Virginia Beach area. And that was something we talked about, was that most entrepreneurs, like, I feel like sacrifice isn't a strong enough word. You have to relinquish certain things.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, and every entrepreneur that I meet, it's like, no, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
But to footnote that, level 3. Deeper.
Oh gosh, we're going to go deeper. Oh gosh, what is a conversation you've recently been replaying in your head? Oh gosh, Bo, that's pretty deep. Because I replay all conversations in my head.
Okay.
Some good, some bad, some analyzing. Like, gosh, it's just my brain. I can't even just tell you one. I'm constantly replaying conversations. I'm replaying this conversation of how to be on this thing, what to say, what not to say. I replay a lot. I can't tell you one specific. I can tell you I replay a lot because of the type of person I am.
Yeah.
So, like, when I go in conversations with people, did I say it right? Did I say it too boldly? Did I say it in a manner that I really meant? How do I express myself properly? I'm a very straight shooter. Sometimes it's harsh and it doesn't come across the way that I want. So I do replay, like, all my conversations, if that makes sense. I can't dictate just one.
No, it does. What's a conversation in your head that has helped you go to, like, let's say, like, that next level of focus, of concentration, especially when it comes to, like, do you repeat in your head, like, mantras?
In what aspect?
Let's say that you're in training. You're training in Muay Thai, and you're tired. You just
Every day, Bo. Every day. I'm tired, but yeah. When Coach Adam gets me, it's like I'm done.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when in training, in which way do you mean?
Like, what are, like, words of mantras that you'll repeat in your head to get you through the training, or do you kind of just go blank and just, like, you still emotion and you move on instinct?
I would say I'm more of, like, shut the emotion down and just move on instinct.
Just do.
Yes, just do. Okay. When it comes to the time Coach Adam gets me, I'll always look at him and I'll be like, what did you just say? Because it's like my brain has just been so filled throughout the day, and it's like I'm more visual. So training, I think, for me is kind of like it's okay to let everything go and just have a coach that will push you. Like, you've already gone this far, keep going. Yeah. And it's almost a release, if that makes sense.
100%. I mean, and you and I both have talked about how fond we are of Coach Adam, and
yes.
He watches my podcast, so just a pillar in both of our lives, I would say.
He's helped me more than he could probably ever imagine.
Yeah, I would agree. I
mean, it's from health, from his ability to take somebody who's had the challenges I have and people trying to put ceilings on me and go, don't listen, you got this. You know, that has helped me in more than just Muay Thai. That has helped me in my business. When you hear chirping from the background, because people don't know you, right? They just know this person popped up and was like, hey, let's start a real estate company after so many years. The self-doubt, the people talking like, oh, they're going to close, they're going to do this. And having someone like Coach Adam. So I have 2 coaches in my life. I have a business and life coach that I meet with every week, and then I have Coach Adam. And Coach Adam helps me more on the physical, like, keep moving. You know, all my health challenges. He's like, you got this. It may look different. It may, every time I stand up, I get knocked down. But he's in that back corner going, you're a fighter. You're old, but you're a fighter, and we can do this, Yeah. And that, to me, is to have somebody believe in you is just so motivating.
Yes.
to be able to go, look, I can do this. And age and your health and everything that gets thrown at you, if you want it, we're going to get you there. So, yeah.
One of the big things that I repeat in my mind is sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail.
Yeah.
That's a big thing that has propelled me forward for many years. But when you were a kid, what did you want to do?
Oh, when I was a kid, let's see. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a FBI profiler.
Wow.
Yes. And a veterinarian. Like, I have a huge, anyone who knows me knows I'm, like, obsessed with animals. So, being in that animal behavior stuff. But I did want to be a FBI profiler. I thought that talent and reading people to this day is very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Due to some childhood decisions, because we're all human and we all make lovely mistakes. It was never going to be in the cards because of some bad choices I made. So I just didn't get to be there. But I still am very intrigued by all the profiling and what makes people do things. It's very, very intriguing to me in a messed up way.
Not at all. Well, now that you've honed a different type of craft, what life advice would you give that young woman?
Never stop kicking. Never stop believing in yourself. Throughout the years of my life, I always go back to people putting ceilings on you. And it's like, for every person that puts doubt in you, you start to believe that. And my advice is, don't listen. Hear them, but don't listen. People are going to have opinions. People are going to be jealous. People don't have sometimes that encouragement to step out of their comfort zone. I'm out of my comfort zone 5,000 miles right now being with you, and I know you, but it's you have to be uncomfortable. If you want something bad enough, go get it. Don't let somebody tell you you can't. Yeah. And for me, when people tell me I can't do something, that's my fuel. Because I've had people tell me I can't do things. And I'm like, why would you tell me that? Watch me. And I think if you can process that and take the negativity and turn it into positivity, the sky's the limit. The sky is just the top of what you're able to do.
Yeah. Dang, well, maybe I should have led with, Sabrina, I don't think you can do the podcast. maybe it would have fueled you to do it even more.
Well, I'm here. It's taken you, almost a year. But I was like, all right, this year was my get uncomfortable year. I'm getting uncomfortable. And this is kind of some of it.
What I really admire about you, and like since the day that I met you, is like you're saying you're uncomfy now, but I can only imagine the amount of discomfort you have experienced throughout your entire life. And I definitely want to kind of circle back to that on how I think the discomfort, we're like diamonds because we grow from these pressures.
Yes.
But I wanted to talk to you about your company.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are the origins of your company? Oh, and what is your company?
So my company is Peninsula Realty. We are a real estate brokerage. And to tell you about it's not my company. It's my agent's company. I'm just the crazy one that had the idea to put it together, and nobody handed me a manual, and I was like, okay, let's figure this out. I started my real estate career in a decade now. I had come from a corporate background, and I got sick. I got breast cancer. And I did very well in the corporate world. Comfortable 6 figures, just waking up. However, it was like the golden handcuffs. And growing up, my parents were great. You know, I had a good childhood. They worked. I got my parents' work ethic to the extent it's what led me to where I am. However, there was one caveat, and the caveat was my parents worked so hard to provide that they couldn't make it to all my swimming events. I was a swimmer. And I said growing up, I wanted to watch my kids do their sporting events because I knew, like as an adult, I get it. Like they had to go to work, they had to provide. But as a child, I knew what it was like to not be able to have your parents in that stand. And I look at my breast cancer journey where it woke me up. It said, it allowed me to see what I was missing. You know, right at the time, my kids were very heavily involved in sports, but I was working all the time, and I was missing things. And so when I went under that journey and time period in my life, I realized that's not what I wanted. I wanted to have the ability to kind of make my own hours, to work around my schedule, to still care for people. I wanted to help people achieve their goals, but not at the expense of watching my children grow up. And that's what real estate gave to me. And at first when I started, it's funny, my partner now was my first broker. And I sat at a round table just like this with him, and I said, I'm not going to be an award-winning agent. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I want to make money and watch my kids grow up. So now the running joke is, how'd that work out for you? Because obviously I need to be challenged. So, almost 10 years, I've been owning my own company since 2017. I got licensed in 2014. And the whole funny part of it is when I was studying just for the initial exam, I was sitting at my dining room table and I looked at Keith and I was like, in 3 years, I'm going to sit for my broker's license. And he was like, oh, like, don't you think we got to worry about this first? And I was like, yeah, but something's telling me within 3 years I need to go for that broker's, and probably won't do anything with it, but I want that next level. And almost 3 years to the date, I got my broker's exam and license, and I opened up my company. So it was a pretty fast moving journey that I went into.
You know, it kind of reminds me of a quote that I read, in the face of death, watch how nothing becomes something. And I feel like perhaps that urgency of like, oh, like maybe I'm on borrowed time. When you were going through your trial of breast cancer,
Mm-hmm.
what life lessons did you cultivate, and what part of your mindsets changed?
So, yes, I share that I'm a breast cancer survivor. So you're about to open up something that I don't share with a lot of people. And people ask me, why don't you share? That period of time is like a fog to me. The life lesson I learned is I looked at it, whatever your religious belief is, that something up above was telling me to slow down. Because when I ran the corporate world, I was up at 4:30 in the morning in the restaurants by 5:30, and then, you know, getting home at 6 o'clock to just eat dinner with my family, and then going back out. I was at a 24-hour restaurant, and I had multiple of them. It was about slowing down. Something was telling me, you need to slow down. This is not what you were looking for. So I listen more. I try to slow down a little bit. But you just mentioned something about being on borrowed time. People ask now, why are you so into Muay Thai? And it's like during that breast cancer journey, I lost me. I gained this tons amount of weight. Had to undergo a full hysterectomy, a double mastectomy, gaining all that weight, going through everything that I had to go through, leading into adrenal gland failure. Like, I just lost me. I lost that athletic person. And so even coach has to, like, slow me down, because he's like, okay, we'll get you back into fight shape, but what does that look like? And it's like I put that pressure. And that's something recently I've had to learn, is that I'm not, everybody's on borrowed time, you know, but I have been functioning on this, I'm losing. You know, I've got to make up for everything that I couldn't do or I didn't do over those years. Yeah. And sometimes that's a little chaotic. You know, so having to slow down is still a work in progress for me, because I'm all or nothing. I'm all or in. And it's like, even with the Muay Thai, it's like, I got to train. I got to do this. I got to do this, because just my history, I get other health challenges that pop up, and it's like, now what? You know, so I had a recent, excuse me, my stomach, a recent one where in 22, I was diagnosed with POTS. So over the last couple of years, it's, you know, now trying to overcome that and how that looks like for life. And it's time to slow down and take it every day, and not feel like you're just on borrowed time. You got to enjoy every day.
This reminds me of another quote that I read. In the midst of winter, I find in my heart burns an eternal summer. And so I feel like the first time I met you, I was like, oh, this is a woman of summer. She's very passionate. She's very, you know, she has so much fire. In your heart, when the autumn comes and when the fall comes and sometimes when it's winter, how do you find your summer again?
It's difficult. I mean, I feel like you have to figure out what keeps you moving, and you have to stay focused on your goals and why you're doing the things you're doing. And people see me sometimes and they're like, oh, you always have it together. And it's like, no, I struggle every day. And you talk about seasons, and it's very, the issue I'm dealing with is sometimes the seasons do bother it. So it's like, you know, how do you keep moving? And you have to, I think it's just that you have to figure out why you're doing what you're doing and what's going to keep you pushing. And it's not about motivation. It's about your discipline. And being disciplined when you don't want to go do that thing. You know, it's about persevering through that feeling to keep yourself moving. You know, it's very easy to just stop. And I listened to somebody on the internet the other day, and she talked about like failing forward. And it's like, in my opinion, it's not a fail. When you fail is when you stop. She said, she used the words failing forward. That's tripping forward. That's stumbling. That's a hurdle that you have to overcome. That's not a failure. Failure to me is when you throw in the white flag and say, I'm done. That's failure. Because if you look at some of the most successful people and some of the people that, you know, are very motivational, they don't stop. They just keep going. And they're going to have hurdles, and you're going to get mountains that you're going to roll down. But you just got to stand back up, dust your knees off, and go, all right, let's approach it differently.
I think Albert Einstein coined the term insanity is doing the same thing in repetitious movement and expecting a different result. Like I was saying, I always find more wisdom, and whenever we do talk, but, you know, I wake up every day thinking if I should, like, quit. Like, I wake up every day thinking, how am I going to pay my staff? I wake up every day thinking it would be easier if I just get another W-2. And don't get me wrong, that's something I've been considering in this season, where it's, like, I would always love to continue podcasting. If I ever gave up my media company, I would continue podcasting, irregardless, because I get moments like this. But if it came to it to where, oh yeah, I could live with not creating commercials. I could live with not doing photography anymore. But if it meant giving up podcasting, I don't think I could do it.
I can tell you, as being somebody who is 6 years in their company, that feeling never goes away. I wake up every day unemployed. People don't get it. People see the shiny stuff that comes with being an entrepreneur, but they don't see what you're feeling. They don't see that self-doubt where, we're up to about 30 agents. I mentioned to you, I talent find. I don't recruit. I look at the industry a little bit different. And we've been holding about 30. I lose some, I get some. They're just not the right fit, and that's okay. And every day it's like, am I doing enough for them? Am I doing enough for my staff? Is it easier for my family for me to just go back to the corporate world where my abilities, I could just, get a consistent 6 figures a year? But at the end of the day, that's not who I am. And the thought process, every day you wake up, and I'm sure you feel this too, it's like, is my business going to survive? We're in a hard economy right now. And it's different when you own your business, and you have to, your business is viewed in a different light when it comes to taxes and how you get taxed. And like, for people that have never done that component, don't understand that that's a stressor on somebody like you and myself, whose other people's livelihood depend on whether or not we've got our stuff together. So it's just a different mentality. And if I were to give you advice, seeing that you're kind of newer to your business, is you're going to have that feeling. I don't care if you're 1 year in. I don't care if you're 6 years in. I've been doing my career for a decade, and that thought process still comes through. I don't think that ever goes away, because you're now that person that somebody has to depend on. You've got your staff. Yeah. They have families. So that weight of your success, I'm sure, knowing who you are, there's some place in your head that's like, I have to be successful because their families are depending on my success. Yeah. And is it easier to probably just wash your hands some days and go, yep, I'm just going to collect a check and get into that same systematic, okay, every Friday I get a check, but are you really going to be happy? And that's what it comes down to. And as much as the struggles and the kicks and the fights, no, I wouldn't be happy. Money doesn't make people happy. I mean, it can, buy it's material things that tomorrow could be gone. And that's what I try to instill my kids. And that's kind of why I opened my company, is to show my kids, no matter what life throws at you, you can always do more, and you can do whatever you want to do.
I think the greatest advice I've gotten, I mean, obviously all of you guys have given me wonderful counsel, but something I meditate on when I'm in seasons of like really hard days is I hear like my father's voice in the back of my head, to where he talks about I had just lost 3 times in a row. I think it was like a judo match, or I don't remember. Yeah, it was a judo match. It was a judo tournament. And I had lost 3 times in a row. And I remember I was avoiding crying because I was like, nah, like, I'm a bitch if I cry. And he saw me very just like hard-hearted.
Yeah.
But the best advice I had gotten from my father was be yourself and learn to adapt. And I think whenever somebody asks me what my strongest trait is, I always say I have the abandoned island mentality, to where like as long as I have my 2 hands and feet, I can try to rebuild, and the rebuilding is enough. Like just a shot is enough. Mm-hmm. Like me starting the media company, that shot was enough. Like I had a chance, And even if I fail, even if I don't succeed, as long as I execute, I can be proud of the fact that I executed. So that's been like a guiding light. And
But you're already winning. I see your stuff all over social media. Your commercials are amazing. You are winning. And this is, how far you been into this?
technically not even a year yet. So
Exactly. It's the first years of what ifs, you know. And just take it day by day. You're amazing. Your stuff's amazing. That's why I was like, okay, Bo, I'm gonna do this. I'm really uncomfortable, but you're amazing. And yes, I did watch Coach Adam. I'm like, okay, if Coach Adam can do it, I could do it too. But I've seen other podcasts that you have done of other people, and you're great at it. So don't give up. You're going to be shooting really high, and your commercials are going to take off, and everybody's seeing your footage. You're gonna be turning business away because you're just going to be that busy. I just know it.
it just goes back down to Ubuntu. Ubuntu, you know, that African tribal phrase that Coach Adam uses all the time, to where I am because we are.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I never would have thought that, because at the time I was just taking pictures of you guys.
Yes.
You know, 4 or 5 years ago, thinking that, like, dude, this camera and watching Sabrina punch somebody in the face or kick somebody is the coolest thing in the world. But now 4 or 5 years later, here I am. You know, I have another person working under me, and here I am now. I got to podcast with the MapQuest founder of all people, and him asking me for advice was interesting. How do you wrestle with your doubts?
Oh. So sometimes I'll ask Keith, am I crazy? Because I sometimes think my brain doesn't work like everybody else's. It's like when I have doubts.
Can I interject a little?
Yes.
I think we have to be crazy a little bit to kind of do this. Like, one, you have to be a little crazy to enjoy, like, hitting and then getting hit in the face. Or
With Muay Thai, yeah, we all have some sort of, like, weird.
Something's a little.
Something's off.
But then, like, to try entrepreneurship where, like, 90% fail, it's
Yes.
like, I think we have to be a little crazy.
Yeah, so in real estate, it's funny. Real estate is not measured by the success rate. Real estate in general has an 87% fail rate. So, I don't want to get off track. It dawned on me when you said this. It was interesting to me because we talk about self-doubt, right? Well, in 2023, the real estate market was the worst than it was in 30 years. Yeah. And 23 was a kicker for me. So on top of, remember we talked about losing yourself through this POTS journey that I've trying to navigate through. I haven't been in the gym as much. It's some of the self-doubt. Do I belong there? Is my medical going to hinder others? Because we are a team there, right? When you walk on those mats, you're a family. Yeah. And the last thing I'd want to do is hinder anybody else's growth, because that's who I am. So is it better just to stay at home? And then I got coach going, get in the gym, get on the mats. Like, everybody's got their things. Like, let's work through this. But I had to get myself, figure out what this looks like for me now. So, positive note, I'm getting back on the mats. But 23, between the health, so in 23 was really hard for me. And I would say after all these years of everything that I have encountered in my life, I would say 23 was probably the hardest year in my entire life. Between my health challenges, and I got people going, oh, well, you survived breast cancer. Well, there was a light at that end of the tunnel. It was, you're going to get through it, or you're not. So there was an end, positive or negative, where with the POTS, there's no cure. There's no end. I'm going to have to live with this for the rest of my life. That's hard for me to swallow, that I can't control this. I can't can't make it go away. It's who I am now. On top of that, on top of the real estate market completely going south, so I have this company that's not a mega company, right? And you don't show the stress, right? Because I have these agents that they're kicking and screaming and they have this livelihood, so they can't see the owner stress, right? You have to be that strong person.
The owner must be doing great because of my hard work.
You have to be.
Yeah.
Not only in 23 did those two things happen, I also had to make a choice between focusing on my company or my personal real estate stuff. Which it kind of spoke for itself, because a POTS episode caused me to blow my vertebrae in my neck, which led to spinal surgery, which was, hey, we're going to just focus on the company, do what I can do. I have to kind of like slow down a little bit, right? So then I affected our household personal income with stopping my personal sales. And, Bo, I'm telling you, it almost took me down. I was emotionally struggling, and that's hard for me to admit. But then something happened. The new year came, and the year was done. And then statistics came out that 23 was the hardest year in real estate in nearly 30 years. Now, during that year, obviously, I was doing things and still working hard and trying to build the company and bring on more talent and do the things that will self-correct business, right? But when that year changed and I read that statistic, a light bulb went off in my head. And I said, you know what? This isn't going to knock me down. The agents that I have in the company, they're still standing. They made it through as well. And so when I walked into that first meeting of the year, I congratulated every single one of them. Because there's a lot of agents that have left the industry. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it's around 60 to 65,000 agents have left the industry. Now, the stats have probably changed because more have left, but at that time it was about 65,000. And we still had our agents. Not only did we have our agents, our company was still standing. And to me, that was like, you're going to have hard times, but you can't let that distraction unfocus you. You have to keep pushing through that. And it made me kind of reflect my 6 years, going on 7 now, of all the hurdles my company's had to go through. And it's like, you know what? We're just going to take every day from now on. We're going to, whatever the negative is, we're going to just give it 5 minutes, digest it, throw it away, and keep moving. Because there are going to be challenges that you can't control. You know, real estate is really, yes, there's always business to be had, but it is dictated by the government. You know, they mess with rates, they do this, they do that. It does affect how sellers and buyers move, which then in turn directly affects our company. But if you just keep on kicking and adjusting to what the market's doing, everything's going to be okay. And that's what I had to teach myself in 23, coming out of 23. I really, really was at a spot where I was like second guessing everything in life. And I've got some good friends who are very successful. You know, I've got a good friend, Chuck Worley, who owns Worley's Home Services. And I talked to him because if you heard his story, you'd be like, oh my God, you know. And so I'll reach out to Chuck. You know, I talked to him actually the other day. And you know, and it was on something else. I was like, how you doing? He's like, I actually took 3 weeks off finally. It only took me 55 years, but I took 3 weeks off and was able to enjoy time. And I said, tell me the secret, because I'm still kicking, you know. And he's like, hustle. Just keep hustling. It's all going to come together. And so when you can find people that understand that it's not always tulips and roses, and that they're there to support you through those hard times, That's how you find your fire. That's how you can sit there and go, I can get through this. Because it's never just tulips and roses, I promise.
Yeah.
I'm that kind of person too. Like, I don't want to sit here and say it's easy, it's great, because just with the good, there's the difficult. Yeah. And Lord knows I've been kicking through the difficult, and there's a lot of good too. And sometimes we don't recognize that. And sometimes we don't give ourselves that grace. And I had done some videos of a couple of my agents, what's Peninsula Realty? What does it mean for you? And I still have not, I think Peachy put one up on our website, because I'm not that person, like, to just go out there. And that's a bad trait of me, to really share, I think. So I'm going to try to do better. Because
it's a shame that you're not.
I don't want to seem weak to people, but then there's a part of me that's like, I know there's people that have had challenges like me, and if I can inspire just one person that you can get through whatever, that would mean the world to me. Peachy reminds me all the time, she's like, you are a superwoman. My business coach tells me, you're not 5 superwomen, but you're one, and sometimes we have to rein you in. But I've gotten to a place where I want to inspire people. I know when we came up here, you're like, we don't have to go up the stairs of the elevator. And I was like, yeah, well, here's another thing. I smashed my toe. Like, so that's cool. But you know what was the cool part about that? I didn't share this with you, is the doctor who repaired that toe is the one that repaired my ankle 7 years ago. It's the doctor that cut my Achilles tendon because my leg was so jacked up, reconstructed my ankle, put it all back together. I come out of surgery, and I remember her going, well, I had to cut your Achilles tendon so you're never going to run again. Now, mind you, I'm overweight, I want to get my life back, all this stuff. So 7 years later, I'm going for a silly toe, But I got to look at her and go, guess what? You know that chick, you remember? She's like, yeah, 7 years. How's the ankle? I said, it's great. And when I'm good, I'm putting at least 30 miles a week on this ankle that I could never run on. And the look on her face was just breathtaking. That's what I talk about ceilings. You have a doctor telling you, you're not going to be able to do this. Watch me. So.
Not only have you put 30 miles on it, that same ankle, foot, toe has probably kicked multiple people in the face since then.
No, that's my bad leg. That's, that's not my rear kick, but it's done some teeps.
It's done some teeps.
It's done some teeps. But I would say that it's don't give up. You gotta kick, and everybody's gonna be chirping, and I hate to say it, That's just who I am. It's very easy to get in your head and say, I'm tired. I'm done. I'm throwing in the flag. Yeah. For what?
One of the final questions I unfortunately have to ask before closing time.
Yes.
Is currently on your path, you've told me how you've been honoring yourself, how you've been honoring your family, how you've been honoring what it is that you're doing now. What is purpose looking like for you lately?
That's really hard, Bo. I'm in a very weird stage in life that mothers go through. My oldest son is 19. I know you probably remember Devin back from the original gym.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That guy has his real estate license. He is joining our team, and that is super exciting. That's giving me my purpose of why I wanted to start. I never pressured either of my boys to follow my journey. I opened my company with hopes.
It was through example, though.
And when he graduated, he was like, I'm like, what do you want to do? And he's like, I want to get in real estate. So, like, I was just like, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm at this weird stage now where he's 19, Anthony is 18, he graduates. Can you believe it? And he's following.
No, but yes.
I feel lost. If you want to know the truth, I feel lost. It's like everything I've kicked and screamed for in life
Has paid off.
has been because of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I went from being a single mom to having everything taken away from me to having to kick and scream. And it's like everything I've done has been purpose for them because I wanted to give them a chance. And now, like, come June, Anthony is going to go right into the workforce. He's going into trade work. He's going to be an electrician. Super proud of him. Yeah. They're both going to do amazing things. My purpose now, I would say, is to give Devin the guidance to where someday, he jokes with people. He tells people he's going to make it so I can retire. Please. No. but is to give him guidance so that he can take someday, if he truly wants to, this company to a level that my ability never was to. And I think he can do it. I think he's driven. I see a lot of him in me. We are so much alike that he's 19. We're kind of bumping heads, but at the same token, we're both growing. And I say to Keith all the time, like, what's next? Anthony's going to be out of school. He's got his future. He wants to be a master electrician. He wants to open his own electrical company someday. What's next for us? Like,
isn't that so beautiful, though?
I'm scared.
That scares you more than you find beauty in it?
It does. It scares me because it's like, what am I going to do? Like, everything I've fought for, the reason why I fought for, it's like, done.
Yeah.
The kids, yes, they kind of need me, but they don't, which means I've done my job because they can stand on their feet, but at the same token, it's like, what do I do? Do I just go now live in the Muay Thai gym and hope, Keith joins us back in the Muay Thai gym? Like, go to work every day, work longer hours? Like, what does life look like? Go ride my horse? Like, yeah, that's cool, but what's next? And between 23 and starting 24, like, all of this is filtering through. And it's like, I've always had this model, and I think my purpose goes back to Devin right now, because I've never been like this superstar sales agent. It was never a desire of mine. My desire was to provide for my family so I could spend time with my children. And real estate did that for me. Yeah. Real estate did it where we could go make memories. We could go on vacation. So it did everything I wanted it to do. But now I feel like, okay, time to crank up and do something you haven't done in the real estate world so you can show your son, who's only 19, so that in 10 years, when he's in real estate for a decade, he's soaring. And so I think that type of purpose is now where I'm going towards, is how can I grow myself even more to help him? I don't know. That could change in 6 months. I don't know. I've said to my mom, like, I feel lost. I grew my kids up with cooking dinner at night, either Keith cook or I, but we always had family dinner. And now Devin's doing real estate during the day, working at a pizza shop at night. And it's like, what do we do? Anthony is doing Anthony things. And it's like, what's next? So I think for me, for mom, for my purpose, I think it's the real estate, cranking that up a little bit more, growing so that I can help others grow their business, ones that have children of their own, so that will be cool. I think it's going to be working through this health challenge. It's been a kick and a scream to get back in the gym, and I keep telling Coach Adam I got one more fight in me. one more. And I don't know what that looks like between, but for me, for my purpose, I want to get that belt. TBAs, baby.
TBAs, baby.
TBAs. I replay that thing in my head all the time. And
it's something that I think about too. It's like, Bo DeSeo, why haven't you tried? Why haven't you tried? And the company, media company, real estate investing company, all these things have took precedence. And for me, it was recognizing that it's such a hard decision to be mediocre at one thing, to advance in another.
Right.
But it's still a childhood dream. Like, it's like, am I still strong enough to win a belt? I mean, I'm turning 27, but
yeah, and I was almost there in 2021, and it's like just everything happened after that. And I keep telling Coach Peachy and Coach Adam, I got one more fight. Mm-hmm. And I tell them right now, like, with all my health challenges, I got a lot of people chirping in my ear that I shouldn't be doing it. Mm-hmm. So keep fueling me, because now I'm going to go get it.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, even with my toe, I had someone say to me, well, maybe that's somebody telling you, like, because I did it sparring, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. And I'm like, it was a fluke accident. Like, you know how many times we break our toes? Come on. So
how many times we bruise our shins? How our
hematomas,
knuckles bruise? Yeah.
Black eyes. You know, it goes with it. But it's like, I've got one more fight, Bo. And I got to just kick and scream to get there. So I think that's my purpose. My purpose is to overcome this health journey. And I guess refine me as a mom without having to guide children. And I think a lot of women go through this phase.
I think my mom is currently going through it right now. And I know that she watches my podcast and listens to it, so I'm hoping that she can kind of take from what you're saying as, like, yes, like, I love my mom. Mm-hmm. And I want her in my life, but at the end of the day, I think she still has this concept that, like, I need her. And I'll always need my mom, but not in the ways that, like, I might not need consistent guidance in some things that I've already mastered and learned because of her. Right. I'm not always going to need, like, for example, like, if it's, like, nagging. It's like, Mom, like, you've nagged me about this before. I've rectified it. I'm good. You're good. Like, it's okay.
So as a mom, because honestly, like, that's why Devin and I bump heads. It's, you know, you, as a mom, you never understand until you're that parent, right? Yeah. And I used to remember my mom saying to me, someday I hope you get a child of your own that's just like you. Yeah. Yeah. It's different. And when you watch your children that you know are so capable of so many things, and as a mom, you know, I've got 20 some odd years on Devin. That's 20 some odd years of life experience.
Wisdom, experience, knowledge.
And when you try, like you said the word nagging, you know, it seems like we're nagging. But I think, and I'm not saying some don't, because I have a mom too. And my mom speaks her opinion, and I love her for that. And I've gotten that from her. But she's one about the Muay Thai. I don't want you doing it, you know? And it's like, you don't get it. Yeah. So it comes across as nagging, but I think and I try to be not nagging because I get it. But I think it's out of a heart, you don't want your children, no matter what age they are, you know you're going to fall. And if you could say something to that child to not allow them to fall, you'd want to say it. You know, it's like when I got into real estate, my mom said to me, "Are you you're walking away from a steady 6 figures? Like, you're going to go into real estate? Like, do you really think you can do that?" And I'm like,
"Is that wise, honey?"
Is that really a smart decision? And I'm like, well, I've always liked real estate, and I didn't do real estate because I was young. I remember working at a jewelry shop thinking about real estate, but who's going to trust somebody, right? That misconception. But to hear, there's my mom.
Yeah.
Are you sure you can do this? Well, yeah, why not? You know, like, if I fall, just be there to help lift me back up, you know? And my parents are both very proud of all that I've accomplished, you know, but you do, hearing some of those things when you're like you and I, it's like, we all have that parent. It's like, okay, you're nagging me, like, step back, you know, the Muay Thai, step back, you don't get it. Oh, I get it. No, you don't. You've never been in the ring, you don't.
Yeah.
But I think it's more out of love.
And I recognize that so much.
And someday
So
when you have
much.
your own kid,
Yeah.
you're going to be that nagging dad.
Yeah, and the way that I look at it too is that at least I have a mom to, you
Yeah.
know, if I perceive it as nagging. But I recognize that I perceive it now in my adulthood as guidance and counsel.
Yeah.
But not every piece of guidance or counsel you have to subject yourself to submitting to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I now just take their guidance and counsel, or their nagging, quote unquote, as opinions
Yes.
and as counsel that I don't necessarily have to follow through on.
Right.
Um,
And you said something important. You know, you asked about Keith. And so when my parents give me their opinions, Keith lost both of his parents. So sometimes I think of that. Like, I at least have my parents to give me their opinions through their experiences and their trials and tributes and all those things, where some people don't have that. So that, I think, is a very important piece of the puzzle. And I hope my kids someday think my nagging is actually out of love, and that, you know, someday they appreciate that I'm here to help them. So,
at least they have a mom.
yep.
You know, at least I have a mom. At least I have a dad.
Yes.
And those are things that I just give praise to God for. So, but unfortunately, we are hitting closing time.
Okay.
So, this is the part where I usually open up last-minute closing comments or closing questions for me. If you have any. If not, it's okay.
Nope. I just really hope that you keep kicking butt, because you're going to do amazing things.
I
So-
will work twice as hard to be worthy of your affirmation.
Oh, you got this.
Thank you. That's pretty good. Thank you for hopping on the podcast.
Thank you for having me after a year.
It's okay. We finally got you.
Yes.
Guys, remember that the grass is not greener on the other side. It is greener where you water. Do you take care not to shrink yourself for spaces you've outgrown? My friends, as always, be well and walk tall. Thank you guys again.